we go. All right. Welcome to Semi Sages of the Pages.
Woohoo!
All right. I'm Teresa.
This is Molly.
And I'm Morgan.
And congratulations. We have passed phase 1, the land survey phase, phase 2, the blueprint phase or architecture phase. And we are moving on to phase 3, the foundation phase. So when you're building a house, you got to lay a foundation, then you put your walls up, then you put your couch in, and then you pick your paint and everything else.
I'm pretty sure that's the exact,
That's all you need.
foundation, walls, couch. You're done. Oh,
Yeah.
paint. Then you're done. Yeah.
Yeah,
That sounds right
exactly.
to me.
And then cat.
Got to have the cat. Yep. Got to have your pets. So we're at the point where you figured out about how big your story is going to be, kind of sort of the shape of things. And now we're going to start digging into your characters. And your characters are the foundation of your story. They are the ones that the story is happening to, and the decisions that they are making is going to change the story. So buckle up. This is my favorite thing where we're talking about characters.
That was really good. And she's super good at writing characters, so I'm listening.
Good. First thing you need to focus on is, yes, ma'am.
No, number one, first thing. I'm supporting you.
Well, thank goodness. I'm glad somebody is. So first thing are the stakes.
I'm going to text your husband.
Things just got real. Steaks. That's what she was saying. Texting the husband. Steaks.
Texting the husband to make me some steaks because I'm hungry. No. Anyway, this episode has gone off the rails. Refocusing.
I would say the stakes are the ramifications for why your characters need to do things.
There you go. I like that.
So like if they do not act or if they fail, what are the consequences? Or even if they succeed, what are the consequences?
Mm-hmm.
And those stakes can be very high. Those stakes can be very personal, and they can be anywhere in between. And you can have multiple stakes running at the same time.
So what would be an example of a big stake?
Save the world.
Yeah.
If you fail, the world will end.
Yep. All of humanity, everybody wiped out. What would be an example of a little stake?
Sending a text to a girl you like.
Yeah.
Well, not getting the girl.
Mm-hmm.
Right? The concept, like if you fail, you don't get the girl, she laughs at you.
Mm-hmm.
You get embarrassed, something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Anything else to add to stakes for kind of this?
I just love how comedy works with stakes. So
ooh.
Tell me.
One of the things to think about with your characters and stakes, even if you're not writing in comedy, but like, let's say comedy is not your forte. Okay. So if you're somebody who's like, I want to add comedy to a scene or to a lighthearted place in the middle or something that's really fun to do with stakes is you can give your character big stakes and have them not react in a normal way.
What came to mind was that, and you see this all the time in action movies now, where, you know, somebody approaches the hero and is like, and the hero just shoots him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So like you set them up
funny.
for X, and then you get the stakes, and then you either just deflate it really quickly, or the stakes are like this, and then the character just does something really unexpected. And a lot of times that's what creates comedy. So if you don't want people to laugh, if you want them to care, then the character's reaction to the stake, to the thing, needs to fit real life, needs to fit something they can relate to.
Yeah, I would say, right, subversion of expectations is a classic way to introduce comedy, right? Yeah. That's what we're talking about, subversion of expectations. Yeah. I will say, like, you can subvert expectations and it doesn't necessarily have to be funny. It can be heartbreaking too.
Oh yeah.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
You know, if the same, right, like someone can't get their email to load and they can't get their email to load, and we've all been at the place where like, you know, that it's so small scale, right? It's such a small thing, but it's just like the straw that breaks the camel's back. And then you just start breakdown crying, and someone comes to you and they're like, what happened? You're like, I couldn't respond to an email. And that can be heartbreaking if delivered right, because you know where that character has gotten to, that they've had that reaction.
I just want to do a quick throwback to a former episode on conflict. So if you're watching this, you should go back and watch our episodes on conflict. But one of the most common things that they're talking about for micro conflict now in the literature is using technology for those moments. So using the email like you're talking about, or using the texter, because so many modern writers don't know how to use technology in their plotting, in their book, in their characterization. And so they're writing like it's pre-1990s. So this is like a hint about how to make it more modern, is to add stakes with technology, like making sure the technology fits the stake. Yeah.
I like it. Good.
My other thought on stakes, making sure that the stakes fit your character. Like, just because the stakes are that the world is going to end, does your character really like care about that?
Good question.
Your character, why, like there's plenty of us out here that we care that global climate change is happening. But are we doing individual actions? Like, is that our main conflict in our life? Is that the main stake in our lives? For most of us, probably not. And it's not that we don't care per se, but maybe we don't feel like we can act on it. It's not connected to us in some way. So make sure that the stakes for your character are connected somehow to the character.
Good. I like it. All right. We're going to talk more about stakes in a future episode. So let's move on to kind of the next thing that you're going to be doing in this phase. And that is choosing your emotional arc of your character. So what that means is that your character starts here and then ends there. Super, super easy. Let's look at Ebenezer Scrooge. Ebenezer Scrooge, miserly man, he's mean to Bob Cratchit. He won't spend a penny. He's a penny pincher. And then at the very, very end of it, his arc is that he gives away all of his money, and he's so kind and he's so giving, and Christmas is his most favorite thing. Super easy arc, super easy way to explain character A gets to character B.
It's like the Grinch who sold Christmas.
Exactly. Same exact
yeah
thing.
I mean, that's what's so incredible, is like how all these arcs are just redone over and over again.
Because there's no new ideas. There's just new ways to say them. And actually, I'm so glad you brought that up, because this is the phase where you dig in and you start individualizing your story, because it's based around how you're going to write it and and how your characters are telling the story. So what happens to them to get from being miserly to being somebody who loves Christmas and gives everything away, that's going to be different based on you and your experiences and how you build these characters. That's why there's so many different versions of Romeo and Juliet, of Shakespeare.
I just wanted to say that I had an epiphany about character arcs here and emotional arcs, but I'm going to save it for when we deep dive into that in another episode. So stay tuned. Might be a few weeks, but we're going to do an episode on this. We'll deep dive into it, and then I will share my epiphany.
And then the third part that has to happen here, you have to decide how much of the characters are going to be driving the forward progress of your story, and how much of the forward progress needs to be driven by the plot. So, great example is that if you know you're going to have a murderer, you're writing a murder mystery, somebody's going to have to get murdered. That is the plot. The plot is someone has to get murdered. How it happens, that can be driven by the characters. And then the reaction afterwards, what they do with it, can be driven by the characters. But your plot is somebody has to get murdered.
And I think it's really important, like we talked about stakes and emotional arcs, and these all feed into each other.
Mhm.
You know, like what stakes you have should drive whether it's plot, character, what the balance there is, you know. If your stakes are very intimate, very personal, very much like get the guy stakes, you know, or get the girl stakes or stuff like that. That's naturally a character driven story. It just is. So there's a lot of things that you do that will shape and make decisions for you here.
Morgan, what are your thoughts?
I'm just thinking about inciting incident and
Tell us
how
more.
important it is for a character to go from their regular life to being pushed into the story or choosing to go into the story. So when you said you make this decision about how proactive your character will be, I'm wondering if that decision isn't really made in that first pinch point, right?
Stakes. Oh, I see what you're saying.
Are set when they're living their regular life, and then to go back to Harry Potter, just because everybody knows it, not because we're advocating for the author or anything, but when he gets that letter, or when Luke Skywalker, you know, finds his family dead, like those are points of no return.
Gandalf knocks
So
on the door.
Yeah. So when the big epic fantasies, the big sci-fis, they all have either the character has no choice and they're thrust into it, which really was Luke Skywalker's situation, right? Or whether they choose to go, which was more Anakin's if you're a Star Wars person, because he chose to leave his mother and go, whatever. You have to still go from their regular place into the story, and it needs to be a point where they can't really go back, so that it pushes, at least if you follow the hero's journeys structural setting. And I think that that's valuable to at least ask yourself, like, what pushes your character from their regular life into this story. And I think the reason it's so important is because I think most of us start our stories in the wrong place.
Food for thought.
And if you're used to hearing things about like story structure or hero's journey, right? Morgan's talking here about like refusal of the call. Like, how do you get your character into the story? And what makes them break their routine? What makes them break their ordinary thing? And sometimes you have characters who want to break it, right? They don't refuse the call. They just jump straight into it given the opportunity. But then you have other characters who say, no, I like my normal life.
Yeah.
I like this thing. And then you have to push them, and you push them off the cliff by killing their family, or by kidnapping them, kidnapping our loved one.
Or the wizard shows up and says the whole planet depends on them.
Right? That's just interesting. It's still like an inciting incident. There's still different choices that you can have, which are reflective of the stakes and the emotional arcs and the conflicts, because we talked about micro conflicts. It's all
comes together. So if you're interested in hearing more about stakes and inciting incidents and everything else, hang tight. We're going to keep on digging into this. So if they want to learn more about us, where do they go, Molly?
come to our Discord, join us.
It really is just the best place. We have a website, semisagesofthepages.com, but honestly, our Discord is hands down the best place.
Best people there. Shout out to our friends on Discord.
Yep. All right. Go write. Hang out. Have fun. We'll see you around. Take care.